The next educational forum is on Mauna Kea, and we're very blessed to have Kealoha Pisciotta here with us. Kealoha is a petitioner and a kia'i Mauna Kea. I've known Kealoha for over 20 years, and in that time, from way back when, it was always about Mauna Kea with her. So every time we go Big Island, she would take us up to the Mauna and host us up there. It was always a spiritual experience. So, and Kealoha is a longtime member of Lahui Hawai'i, a longtime citizen. So we're really blessed, and we wish the best for our Mauna Kea kia'i. We pray for them. I think for us, for all of us as Kanaka Maoli, Mauna Kea is always in our hearts, because that is the pinnacle, the highest point in Hawaii, and where we can be closest with Keakua, right? So I think Mauna Kea, I know Mauna Kea is special for all of us as Kanaka, and it's what actually reawakened a lot of us to come back into the movement. So I want to just introduce Kealoha Pisciotta. Mahalo, Kealoha. Can we give her a round of applause?
Aloha. I just have to do a little short pule here, and then I think if it's okay, I'll sit down, just because I'm just a little tired. I don't know why. Anyways, aloha kia kua na o makua e noho pu me mako ya mako. Abide with us, kia kua na o makua. Abide here and now. Open our hearts, our mind, our spirit, and our soul, that we may enjoin you in the will of the heavens, and that the heavenly righteousness be done. Mahalo, Yahweh. Sorry, okay. I think it was in 2014 in Kalamai Ya'ua, I had stroke, and one of the effects of my stroke is that I can't remember dates and times. But essentially, you all know, not very long ago, something miraculous happened. It wasn't triggered by any human thing. It wasn't triggered because we had been involved in litigation or working to protect Mauna Kea for many years. You know, a lot of people think they often say that's why it happened. But I don't agree. I think it happened because Akua made it happen. Akua made that Kahea that can only be heard in the heart. So that Kahea brought everybody together. You know, because Mauna Kea is not just the highest place in Hawaii, it is the highest place in the entire Pacific, and actually the world from the bottom of the ocean. So as our Papa Hanamoku begins to participate in the changing of the heavens, because we have come through a huge change, yeah? The 26,000-year cycle. And I had a newspaper guy tell me, but Kealoha, you mentioned the 26,000-year cycle, but the TMT won't be there in 26,000 years. I was like, no, bro, you're misunderstanding the point. I'm like, you're right, because it won't be there at all, actually, but just saying. When I say the 26,000-year cycle, this is the cycle of the earth in relationship to the heavens. And that is a cycle that may even be what our kupuna called Proto-Polynesia, meaning we practice this practice of keeping track of the precession of the equinoxes before we even came to Hawaii. You know, of course, some kupuna say we didn't come here, we were here, we left, you know. But whatever way you're looking at it, that is one of the practices that helps us to keep track of our time in relationship to the universe. This is a time before empire, before the Roman Empire, before the Greek Empire, before Empire of America, any of that. So that is why we practice that. You know, I had some keikis go tell me when I was talking in the school, you know, oh, Auntie, we don't need to know that time. Can we get GPS? And I said, no, this is about keeping track of where we are in our prophecies, where we are spiritually and in relationship to the heavens and the earth. So we went through that. We just came through a 26,000 year cycle. And people knew that as 2012. Right? We're now a few years away from that, and now all these things are beginning to change. And that's because we're in a time of ascension. We're in a time of bringing in the new light. And most people, I believe, were born to be here at this time. In the Mauna, we make the call, whew, and everybody came. And you know, I learned there's a Tibetan proverb that says, when the mountain calls, show up. And I thought, ooh, that's it. When the mountain calls, we better all show up. Little did I know the mountain would call and everyone would come. And I want to say that we have been involved for a lot of years. I think for me, I used to work up there, right? I used to work for the British government as a telescope system specialist. I thought it was okay, and I related to it because I come from star people. Auntie Komaka was a kilo person. And so I came from that place. But I think I wasn't really there for the astronomy per se. I think maybe I was there for this part. Because I kept actually wanting to come down, and I kept getting a message, no, you have to stay. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of done, because I now see that this is not what I was looking for. But yet, I couldn't come down. So, and Auntie used to say, no, Kealoha, you have to maka'ala up there. Because it's never been acceptable that there were telescopes on the Mauna. Never. In fact, I had a Kepeni kupuna ask me one day, I was photocopying for one of our cases, these pictures of the telescopes, arrays, huge ones. And she tagged on my sleeve and she says, is that on the mountain? I said, oh, well, they want to put that on the mountain. Yeah, Auntie, they do. And she said, from the very beginning, they asked for only one. She said they lied, and they built all of these. If they're building these things, they're not supposed to. And she was Japanese, and she said, that mountain is special, and they're not supposed to touch it. You know, so that's just more confirmation, you know, coming from different perspectives. So it's never really been okay. But what we could not stop, you know, even Mr. McLaren from the Institute for Astronomy, he testified one time and he made a statement, well, nobody was objecting before. And so when I got up, I said, well, Mr. McLaren, in 1968, we couldn't even speak our language. Do you have a point? And there were people up there. And that's one of the main points here, is that we're not the ones who've just been fighting. The kupunas fought before us. But they didn't even have the ability to be defined as Hawaiians, really necessarily. That was our all of our aunties and uncles that was hunting and running that aina up there. And then it was the Audubon Society who were concerned about the birds. So they all came before us. And it was Uncle Genesis who went to the first meetings of Lahui Hawai'i. And he went there and he said, he came back and he said, you know, I told them they need to stop. And so it was the kupunas who encouraged us to anti-kamaka, anti-lena ala, apiki macord. You know, there were the Po'ehaole kupuna from the Sierra Club and all those guys. They're the ones, you know, Antipele Hanoa, she told him one time, where is all the kukai going from up there? And she told Nelson Ho, you go find out where is the kukai going. And it's all of them who, when I felt, they just said, we have to make this change. And for me personally, when the real change started to happen was actually when they were doing the next wave, starting to level these important pu'us that are culturally important to us, that connect us to the ocean, to the mauna, to the sky. All of those things we have are the integrity of our cosmology, of who we are. So I just wanted to make sure that people understand that it doesn't begin or end with us, you know, the petitioners, so on, or the original petitioners, or da 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 da. It is the Lahui and the Kahea of the Akua and our relationship to all Akua and to our land. It's a simple issue. Really, it's a regulatory issue. It's not even a statute or a constitutional point. We should have stopped it at the regulatory phase. They just can't meet the 8 criteria, and they never could. And it's also about people from California coming here and wanting to dominate and occupy our aina. And it's Gordon Moore. He's one of the wealthiest people. And you notice none of the news ever interview him. But he's the wizard behind the curtain. Mr. Moore, we call you out. Come and tell us why you don't think our culture is important. Why you don't think our relationship and our ability to see the heavens. For 26,000 years we've been looking at these heavens. We have a right to continue that. You know? And so, Mr. Moore, you should come out and say so. We interviewed with his people. We told him, yeah, tell him no send his people. Come here and talk to us. We're talking. Come here and talk to us then. We've written to him. Actually, we sent the whole Gordon Moore Foundation our letters asking him to please build it elsewhere or not at all. When they asked me, Kealoha, do you have anything special you want to tell Mr. Moore? I said, well, yeah, we'll send your people. Number one. And number two, if this is a legacy problem, if this is your legacy, you can make a bad one. And if you want to have a good legacy, we can help you. You could, for example, help everyone on the planet have clean water. That would be a good legacy. But continuing to dismiss the host culture, our practices, our spiritual practices, the environment is not a good legacy. So where we are now, I want to acknowledge all of the petitioners, first of all. And there's a lot of them. And I can only do it by the order that we had to sit because I hated that they made us sit in one place. But now to remember everybody, so it's Mauna Kea and Nainaho, of course, us, and I am the president of Mauna Kea and Nainaho. Yeah, mahalo. Auntie Kamaka actually made us form that for those with the genealogical connection to the Iwi, yeah. Anyway, so our purpose is just, we're not an organization, a nonprofit or anything. All we are is a organization dedicated to protecting our kupuna and the traditions and mo'olelos of Mauna Kea. Yeah. So then we have Miss Debbie Ward. Yeah, yay, Debbie. She was originally Sierra Club, but Sierra Club, towards the later part of some of our other hearings, they were in our original hearings where we first won against NASA, but they didn't want to vote. They kind of have some pro-astronomy people in there, but nevertheless, it was Debbie who gives them standing because she is a recreational user that has been hiking on the mountain and studying all of the everything about the mountain environmentally, and for over 20 years. And then there's Uncle Ku. Yeah, Uncle Ku Ching, who, I mean, I know people here that he does huaka'is, but they really don't understand what that means. Uncle Ku has hiked from the ocean, up the mountain, down the mountain, across Puakaloa, which is actually the size of more than 8 of our, the size of all, more than Koho'olawe. Yeah. He's hiked up Mauna Loa, down Mauna Loa, across the plains into the ocean. Many different times in many different ways. Uncle knows all of the trails, which are actually our old highways, and they fall under the 1864 Highways Act as well. So he has this phenomenal and important role to keep those highways, like the ana, the caves, are highways too, yeah? To keep those open by using them for our people. And then we have Uncle Paul Nevis. Yeah, Uncle Paul. So he came in actually as Royal Order of Hawaii. Mamalahoa Heloi Lua, I think, is the name of their chapter, responsible for.
Sorry, Kealoha. I got it. Cars.
Oh, sorry.
I call them I sorry to interrupt, Kealoha. But if you have a black truck that's parked out in the grass or a white van, someone's trying to get out, I call them a black truck or a white van. Thank you. Aloha. Sorry, Kealoha.
Yeah, sure. No worries. You know, so Paul helps ground us in the protocol of the kingdom. You know, Royal Order is not claiming to be kingdom or the kingdom, but to uphold the protocols of the kingdom. And they're critical because they are also our treaty holders, because they were created when the treaties were created. Before that, 1865. And so he brings not only that part of the upholding that, but also upholding the practice. He and the other Royal Order, Uncle Kaliko, Uncle Kahu, you know, we helped to reestablish some of the temple protocol, including the solstice and equinox, the polohiva ceremonies that take place. And part of that practice will be completely affected if the TMT is built, because it will block the rising and setting of the sun in certain places that we need to keep track of those motions over the 26,000 year cycle. And then wait, Uncle Paul, the Flores Case Ohana, of course. Yay. They're upholding an important aspect of the mo'o inanea, whose place is at the lake. and all of the practices, and the representation of the mo'ovahine of the Mauna, because they're all of the water element. And we all represent, as a collective hui, the water itself, because Mauna Kea is the aquifer for Hawaii Island. There's other aquifers, but there are at least 5 major aquifers. The threat to the water is really a very serious and big issue. And that's because the observatories continue to dump hazardous materials and human waste in substandard septic tank and leach field systems. That was discovered when we did the NASAKEC. Since that time, the Board of Land and Natural Resources has done nothing. When we subpoenaed the records in the very first hearing, we were looking for a few things like mercury, ethylene glycol, certain bad chemicals, right? And what ended up happening was the hearing officer sided with us because they didn't want to hand over any documents like that. What ended up coming to us was 50,000 documents. And we weren't even sure what that was. We were like, what is all this? And those were papers identifying all of the hazardous materials used. We had to sit in my living room in Kealoha and go through every one of those documents, because, by the way, the lawyers did something tricksy to us to try to throw us off. They papered us. So they threw all of this paper at us. Some of it was real and some of it wasn't. And then they just go, oh, well, we don't know what that is, right? So we had to go through, and some of it we couldn't even understand because it wasn't even in English. It was in other languages, right? Because there's French, Japanese, there's all these different, right? So even my telescope, I had no idea, the one I worked at 2 different ones. I had no idea that we had systems that were substandard. Ours was better, but some of the other ones, not. And some of them just have septic tanks because they were built before any of those rules. So we still have this problem. This is why we have to continue these cases. So let me just finish. I want to acknowledge everybody, okay? So after them is Lanny Sinkin, Temple of Lono. Yay, Uncle Lanny. Awesome. Championing the question of desecration. Desecration has never been enforced on Mauna Kea. There is an actual law. When we first were in our first contested case hearing, the law was only a misdemeanor. Now it has a huge fine of $10,000 and/or 1 year in prison. And it's HRS 711-1107, desecration law. And yet, we delivered to the governor over 65,000 petitions that Laulani guys put on the website, right? Asking for them to stop the desecration and to stop moving the bulldozers and to free all those that have been arrested. Right? So, Lenny, Uncle Kaliko. Yeah, Uncle Kaliko. And actually, his original argument was a desecration argument, and he's still staying in it. But Uncle Lenny, between the two of them, have made it really strong. Like this should shut it down, really. Anyways, so, and then, I'm going down the list. Okay, where is everybody? Vicente. Yay. Dwight Vicente, yay. And by the way, he has filed a notice of appeal already on his issues under the Northwest Ordinance. Okay. And then, who's over there? Oh yeah, Billy Freitas and Auntie Cindy Freitas. Awesome. They're their own petitioners, by the way. So they all have different issues. But their issues, for me, one of their big ones is the whole desecration. And they keep, TMT keeps saying, their lawyers keep saying, well, you built an ahu in the road. And, our answer to that is you don't have a road. We can build it wherever we want. Remember, you don't actually, the Supreme Court vacated your permit, and they don't have a sublease, which Judge Nakamura vacated the consent of that sublease. So really no more sublease. But for them to actually say that, to say, oh, well, you built it on purpose. It's like, no, we built it on Mauna Kea, which is where ahos are built. And your road was in the way. Okay, and so also, Auntie has some really important arguments too about how they're not in compliance with any of the things that they say they're supposed to be, right? It's huge. And how they misrepresent in their documents. One of the things in law that's important is to determine who has the burden of proof, they say, right? And see, we don't have the burden. They have the burden to prove. So, for example, in the case of the water, they're like, well, Kealoha, you guys didn't make your case. And we say, no, you forgot. It's not our case to make, it's your case. So we don't have to prove that the water will be contaminated. We only have to prove that there's a question, and you have to prove that it won't. It's very important because all of this kind of hana we always get is always them saying, even the kakabil and the naiapuni and all of that, you have to prove you're Hawaiian. It's like, no, you have to prove why you're here. We know why we're here. Wake up, everybody. We know why we're here. How did you get here? And have you naturalized? And do you want to naturalize? Because there's people who will naturalize you. I mean, we need to come from that place. Like, stop pushing it on us to prove that we're Hawaiian. I don't have to sign a list. Because actually, under international law, here's an important point. You are always the nationality of your kupuna, right? It's one of those things you cannot choose unless you choose to change that nationality. So we are all subjects of the kingdom because we descend from those who were. So our kupuna were, and therefore we are. Same thing. And there are non-Kanaka who are also subjects of the kingdom because their kupuna naturalized and became citizen. Under the kingdom, there's 3 different ways in which you identify who you are, right? You're Kanaka, which means you don't have a choice. You're going to be part of the kingdom. Then you are those who choose to be part of the kingdom and are loyal. And they become subject to. And then the third is people who's here, but on the aina, but not loyal to the kingdom. So they're kind of suspect. Anoe, right? Anyway, you know what I'm saying? So we're that. We're all that. We can't help but be that. So we need to reverse that. So even here in the contested case hearing, we had to make that argument that we make the argument, but we're not asking them to judge it. We're just saying we affirm we are subjects of the kingdom. We're not asking you, state of Hawaii, to validate that because you can't. You know what I mean? But we have to say it in the record so they can go to UN or that it can go into the international arena. Anyways, so Uncle Billy, Mehana Kihoi. Mehana Kihoi is one of our heroes. Really, actually all the petitioners are. But Mehana, because she's a young kia'i, she inspires me, I feel. And I want to say that shout out for her because she had to face some really heavy stuff in front of everybody. I feel for them. Like Mehana, because she didn't need, it's so hard to get up there and admit those things happened to her. But she was gonna stand for the Mauna as a healer. That the Mauna is healing her. And so that inspires me. Kalamai. Ye Mehana. Lena Allah too. Lena Allah. She's kia'i. I remember seeing her up there, and I didn't know any of these people before. Of course not. None of us knew anybody. We all came together on the Mauna. Kahea. Him and Mauna Kea held it down. Yeah, Mauna Kea held it down. Yes. No, I know. I have to admit that I was watching and laughing and cracking up when that happened. I'm like, oh, he said that. Oh my goodness. Kahea holding it down. You know, and he came forth, and he actually kind of admitted, he's like, I don't even know what this is all about, but I have to come here. It was amazing. Yeah, the Mauna wind called him. Exactly. And then, okay, they're not Allah, who else? Oh my God, Uncle Hank. Of course, Uncle Hank, how could we're not even forgetting? Uncle Hank was the first one actually on the mountain the night before. He didn't even know why, he said, well, something bad is happening and we're gonna go over there and we're gonna Kahea the rainbow with the spirituality from Temple of Lono and Uncle Mike Lee guys, yeah. And then he goes, but I also made a notice so I could serve him. And that's what he did. He was going up there to serve the notice to say, you're unlawfully occupying our Mauna. We don't want you to do that. How inspiring. And then even he talks about it today. He goes, my wife kept saying, why aren't you up here during this other part, right? And he goes, I went, and I'm not called right at this moment. But he actually started the whole thing, the night before. And they couldn't arrest him, and he keeps telling him, is there any of you who wonder why they couldn't arrest me? Because they just couldn't arrest me because they don't have any jurisdiction. And you know what I mean? Like, that simple fact that he went up there and they couldn't arrest him. Okay, so who else am I forgetting? Oh my gosh, Kamahana. Yeah, Kamahana. Kamahana, it was hard for him to go through this. And I give him so much aloha because he told me straight out, I don't think I could do kapu aloha. And he came to apologize to me. And of course I was like, you don't have to apologize to me. You need to apologize to the Mauna, to the Akua, and ask them for assistance on this, because it's very hard to be in the kapu aloha when you're going through. Like, I have a hard time standing up there because I like beef with all of those so-called rangers who for years took my family ahu, took it to the dump, who stop me every time and they tell me, Kealoha, I think you can go up now. I said, I'm not asking you. The mountain will belong to you. I said, as a matter of fact, you might have to arrest me because I am going up. I had to do that for many years. They would stop all the people, but let all the astronomers up, right? Selective enforcement. Besides, the number one fact, they have absolutely no jurisdiction. They can't arrest me. They can't do anything. As a matter of fact, next time we're going to make citizens arrest. So there's that, There's also all of the witnesses that came forward who ended up being witnesses and not necessarily part of the case. They were witnesses for the hearing officer. Yeah, but that's a different kind. The ones who came forward who decided not to be official petitioners, but special people. And like Auntie Wilma. Oh, and Auntie Wilma has filed also her quitclaim. Yeah. Okay, I haven't heard anything, but anyways, yes. So okay, so she put in that. That's just recent stuff. So I cannot say more of how much the petitioners have withstood a lot of indignity. Come on, I see you. Where are you? Somewhere. Okay, aloha. You know, and Kamahana was actually the one who was always saying, I'm here under duress. And what was the other one? He came up, he had some really good legal terms too. Kuanto, oh shucks, I'm sorry, I can't remember it. But basically it means show us your title, which is like all of these things seem like they might be funny, but they're real. Like, you know, show us the title. You know, Hank's even over there going, okay, fine, we concede all of these things, just show us the title and we'll be okay, because, you know, on your application you say you're the owner of the land. Now we all know you're not, you're the trustee, so it needs to say not owner, cross it out, put trustee on behalf of the Hawaiian beneficiaries and the general public. That's what the Admissions Act says, and don't try to say anything else. It's that simple, right? But why, you know, all of this stuff? I mean, we did win the state and federal case way back against NASA. And from that time, their own environmental impact statement says that 30 years of astronomy development has resulted in adverse, significant, and substantial impact to the cultural and natural resources of Mauna Kea. Okay? So from that time, that's their EIS. We didn't write that. They went through that process. They wrote it. So come now, the TMT, by the way, 12 other telescopes tried to come since that time. That case was in 2003, I think. So 12 other telescopes tried to come. But they didn't come because the EIS already said that already has significant impact. Because in the 8 criteria, one of the criteria says the project will not have adverse or significant impact, whatever. Well, we don't need to prove it. The documents say it. BLNR, you can read it. It's done. Paul, they no can come. A regulatory agency's job is sometimes to say no, to regulate, right? And then, so just say no. If you can't, yeah, that's just, so, I mean, the sad thing is that we've had to spend 20 years just trying to get the BLNR to follow their own regulations written in plain English. So then add on all these other things, and we have a big problem. We had the most amazing witnesses. They outranked their witnesses by not only education and title and all of those other things, and they still refer to them as, you know, less than. So, you know, these are the things. But then when we reflect on why we're doing it, why put up with it, why do any of it? And it's because I think the whole process was a healing process. I don't know why BLNR decided to film the entire thing. I think they probably regret that. But nevertheless, we had to make the record. So now it's all on record. So we have some of our finest Kanaka academics, grassroots, you know, testifying. And it's all on record. And I'm so, you know, mahalo kia kua, I don't know how. And then I need to talk about the rest of everybody. Who's the rest of everybody? Everyone who would answer that call too. And let me just say, I mean, I can't speak for everybody and all the petitioners, but what I do want to say is that, you know, we could feel it every day. The very first day we walked in, and somebody came up and they handed me oatmeal and a spoon. And they said, "Here, Auntie, we know you're hungry." We didn't plan any of that. We didn't have anything to do with it. And yet, well, every day we ate 2 meals a day. And not just any kind of meal, like really amazing meals. Meals that helped us to be healthy. And none of that was planned. You know, when I look at what wasn't planned, I think to myself, if I was the state, I would be afraid of us too. Because everything was put in its proper place. And nobody planned it. Because it was akua, that's why. And that's true stuff. We ate twice a day. And it was because people, in even restaurants, were just giving, so we eat. Just like how it was on the Mauna. You know, Auntie Ku cooked every day, you know, for the kia'i. And it was brought up by somebody. You know, it's that kind of stuff that we cannot. So because it's that kind of stuff, we have to look at what Akua wants us to do. The Mauna is the great unifier. It's a magnifier, and it's an amplifier of the aloha, of our aina. And so the future, people saying, what's going to happen in the future? The media is always like, Kealoha, what are you going to do? I say, I'm not the one for ask that question. You ask them, what are they going to do? Because you know what we're going to do. And the question is a moral question to them. We've given them everything they need to know what not to do. And if they do it, we need to know they have to carry that heva themselves. Because we have carried their heva a long time. And I think one of the greater gifts of the movement, the Mauna Kea movement, is that we stopped carrying their heva. We decided, you know what? And I remember even the NASA one, at the very end, it's like we had seen those guys for 3 years in consultation. I was like, by the time we're done, it's like, we're so tired of being here and telling you all of these things, but we've done it because the kupuna told us we needed to. The kupuna used to say, Kealoha, if they knew better, they would do better. And I thought, okay, Auntie. They said, they don't know how special the Mauna is. So we continued. And at the very end, I remember actually saying to them, I don't have anything more to say to you other than I'm going to tell you this. If you intend to do it, we wash our hands of it. Because now it's between you and Akua. You know how when your tutu used to say, okay, be that way, I'm going to give you to Akua? You know what I mean? That's when we got really scared, right? We would rather get waxed than be given to Akua. What does that mean? Because Akua's justice is different than your tutu just put you know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel about it. We're going to continue to make the stand because actually what we did was actually reclaim aloha. Put it right. Because aloha is not about, oh, let's all feel good and can we all get along? I know people think that they're like, Kealoha, I get it. And I'm like, I get it. We all stay down. If you're not feeling really good about this, you got to stay down. That's why those kia'i, it's so amazing how well these young people could actually handle and stay in the aloha space. You know? But aloha is about truth and justice and compassion. Not just compassion for others, but compassion for ourselves too. That we learn to aloha each other. Because the biggest fallacy has been that we are not unified and we are not connected to the earth and we are disconnected from Papa, in other words. And all of that is colonization to divide us and to disconnect us from Papa. When we're disconnected from Papa, and I think that's actually America's problem, is that they are lonely. You know? I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but that's truth. They don't have even what we have. And so by us establishing and remembering our Papa, Hanamoku, we're helping them. Because if they're sick, we're sick too. You know what I mean? And so in a way, us healing ourselves is healing, in other words, giving them inspiration to heal too. So we're going to heal ourselves, and we're at that place where we're not asking you guys anymore. We have this kuleana to this aina, and we have to get on with our business, the business of Akua. And we love you folks, but we're just going to give you notice and let you know we're going to be doing this, and we hope you make good choices because we got to do this. Because you know what? Who is it? The guy, Andrade, always says this. She says, you know, we're basically on this trajectory, on this train track, and we can see down the end of the track, and we're going to fall off. And so we're all like, excuse me. You see at the end, we're going to fall off. And we have to actually just jump off and say, we're not going to fall off with you guys. If you guys want to go fall off, go fall off. We would feel sad because we aloha you, but we're inviting you to join us to stay on the right track. That's what we, you know, so going through this experience for me has helped me ho'opuka, my own shadow. The shadows, you know, we walk through the shadow, but we have to actually walk through that shadow to get that blessing. And what is the blessing? You know, Akua tells you, walk the shadow, and you're like, oh my God, okay, I'm walking them. I don't know where I'm going. But you just keep walking, and then all of a sudden, poof, ho'opuka. And you go, oh, you know, and you're so thankful for that because mahalo ke akua, na akua, na auma akua. And so I just got to conclude with just a little bit of where we are, right? We're at a point where we're following the rest of the rules. We're finalizing what's supposed to happen because in the rules, a contested case here, and this is really important because another thing this case did was show everyone that everyone can be in a contested case hearing. Contested case hearings are created to be a people's process. And it's actually it's created to alleviate us from having to be burdened in a legal process because a lot of times we don't have money, or we don't have time, and we don't know how to do it. So this is supposed to be the people's process. And so we went through that people's process. And the next part of the rule says, if the Board of Land and Natural Resources rules against you, you may proceed to a court of law. Because BLNR is not a court of law. They're just the executive appointed branch overseeing our INA, and I would strongly recommend in some future time we work on getting them voted in because appointment isn't working. But for now, we have to go through that process, and we have to do what they, you know, exhaust our remedy. So we're going into the next stage, and the next stage is, it says, the law says we have 30 days to appeal. And so that's one of the reasons why we're like, well, we have that 30 days. Why would you try and bulldoze before we try to appeal? You know, that's the moral question, to say, who would go and try to eliminate the evidence? Shouldn't you, scientists, want to know if you're correct on the law? So we have to go to the court. And the Supreme Court ruled when they remanded us back to repeat this case. The Supreme Court ruled that there were questions of constitutional issues relating to Native Hawaiians and the environment. So they actually have to be the decider. If the state didn't recognize our constitutional protections, and only the court can, really, only the court really can, but BLNR should have just followed the rules, but they didn't. And in fact, they repeated almost all of the things that the court told them not to. Right? So we're preparing for that. We have 30 days. We will file into this. And there's been a law that was changed for them. They wanted it changed. And that law says that when you appeal out of a contested case hearing, you go straight to the Supreme Court. I don't think that's right, because going to the lower courts, into the intermediate, and then to the Supreme is a due process. So I think actually it's a violation of due process, but there again, we didn't make the law, those guys did, to try to expedite the TMT construction. So we're heading there, and we're gonna have to go there, and it's gonna be probably a long process too. And I don't look at what happens if necessarily. I just know that we have to keep moving forward with this aloha, this determination, this motion. I think in a lot of ways the TMT didn't make smart decisions. They should have gone with the European Union and invested in the world's largest telescope that's actually being built in Chile. They could have gone there. Now there's concern for something. Yeah. Oh, and then right now the state is actually appealing the sublease. Okay. Kalani went into the court. Native Hawaiian legal court took his case. They won. Judge Nakamura basically said Kalani and even the others are entitled to a contested case hearing on a sublease. The state says, no, they aren't. It's like, well, of course we would probably, right? Because we have a land interest in all of the land of Hawaii, right? Or a property interest, so to speak. So why wouldn't we? Okay, so the state doesn't want that, so they're appealing, and then they appeal right now in the Supreme Court. So that's currently still pending. And even if they resolve that one in a couple days or whatever, we're still going up anyways. So either way, the courts are going to review all the things that we have brought forward. And I would say almost all of the major issues have come through this case too. So it has a chance to set really strong precedent, but it could also set negative precedent. But at the same time, I think the overall questions, I think, should help. And I do have faith. I'm cautioned, but I have faith in the justice process. And, it is still all under American law, and we get that. But that is part of the definition of occupation, that we have to operate in a system we don't agree with. So, Naivi said it well. He said, yeah, everyone should sign on to the kingdom position, but you better plot out a defense under American law, because that's how they're going to prosecute you. So just to summarize, there were four places where the law sided with the civil and human rights of Native Hawaiians. The first was the Supreme Court. They said, wait a minute, there's constitutional questions here, there's human rights questions, or civil rights questions, you need to go back and redo it because they violated your due process rights. So that was an affirmation. The next was Doug Chen, the AG, who, by the way, is in a conflict of interest because he was the managing director of the same law firm that we're fighting, Carl Smith and Ball. But anyways, he wrote draconian rules to try to hane'ino all of the protectors. That was thrown out. Those rules were thrown out. All of the protectors were arrested, they appeal on using the lesser of two evils argument. And so that was thrown out. So, you know, they couldn't keep anyone. They couldn't say that anyone was criminal. There were only two that actually changed that. Oh, yeah.
One more car issue.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I call it my one more car issue. So the gray truck over here is trying to leave. It's over here in the corner. So if you have a car that's blocking the gray truck here in the corner, can move it and put it back. Thank you. Kalamai. We're working with what we have.
Okay.
Hello, sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. And then the fourth place is there a fourth one? Maybe there isn't. But anyways, so the courts has throughout all of this have sided with the people and not sided with the opposition. And I shouldn't say opposition. I'm trying to stop saying that because I don't think it is an us or them. But what it is our ability now to revision Hawaii for through that ike of the akua. It's like a new chance to set things right in pono. And so I think there's so much more I could say, but you know, I do want to say this. It's the goodwill of all of the people of Hawaii, Kanaka and non-Kanaka alike, that made all of these things happen and will continue to make it happen, because some of the things that I say to those opposition guys that irritate me is the genie is out of the bottle and we're not going back in. You know what I mean? The perfect storm happened, so it is kukia I mauna. So, kukia I mauna. Kukia I mauna. And kukia I mauna. Yeah, mahalo. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Wait. What's next?
Thank you, Kim. So Kealoha will be around. So if you need to ask her questions, she's more than happy to, answer them about what's happening. If you miss something or if you have further questions and you want further clarification, she'll be here throughout the day. So we're very lucky to have her. Thank you. Mahalo, Kealoha.